Welcome to Big Boy Crypto, the people's channel, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all the interwebs. No channel works harder to keep you in the know about crypto. Well, these baseball tournaments on Sundays, usually that's our Sunday drive to church video, but we're going to the ball fields again today. Travel ball hard on the church life. That's a whole other story. But guys, today I want to talk about XRP. I was at the Hawks game the other night. I was on TV all night. We were sitting right next to the player benches. Be again there again tonight. Guys, I was throwing up the X for y'all, and nobody got it. Nobody saw me throwing up the X for the XRP community. But we're doing it because we're representing XRP all the time around here because we love this coin. We love this. I tell you what it is. It's not the coin that I love. I love the community more than anything. You guys are phenomenal, hugely supportive of this channel, and we are hugely supportive of you. And we're going to be talking about over the next coming weeks, kind of a message that we're going to be, talking about a lot is what are the coins that you need to be in because they are breaking the traditional system. Obviously Bitcoin, obviously Ethereum, and obviously XRP. Even something with Cardano, which Ada Gang, I love y'all too. Ada Gang, Ada. Love the Ada Gang as well, but Cardano hasn't really shown itself yet to be something that's going to break a system. Some people say it may break the Ethereum system, but as far as traditional finance goes, we don't really know what's happening. So we're going to be talking a lot about these coins that are going to be breaking the system, but where are we right now with XRP? Because long term, we know XRP is breaking the system. The current international border remittance, cross-border transaction payment system, it is going to be absolutely broken, really replaced by the XRP network, by RippleNet, by Ripple Labs. It's coming. You can take that to the bank, if you will. But here's the thing. We really got... So in the long-term perspective, you guys know our number one investing philosophy here, develop a long-term mindset. Over the long term, this is not bad news. This is fine. But in the short term, if you are looking for a short-term XRP pump, if you are looking for this settlement to end very quickly, well, we got some news late last week that was breaking that says actually otherwise. Looks like now we are looking at this case going into the beginning of 2023. This is awful news for those in the XRP community who have been holding on, looking to move things. We'll talk in a minute about how this kind of fits into the larger context of a current Bitcoin bear market. But here's the news. Basically, the news consisted of the fact that we are getting a schedule. The schedule has just been released for the rest of the case. Now, it ends in, I think at the end of July is when the schedule ends. I think maybe it's August. I can't remember, to be honest with you. It's not in front of me. That's not really actually the important part, because that's good. We were going to stay on track for a September XRP case end is what we were looking at. September, October, maybe August at the earliest. But unfortunately, it now looks like that's not going to be the case. Why? Because even though we got the news that the schedule ends then, both law teams have now been given until a couple days before Christmas to answer, I guess, the final, you guys know I'm not a lawyer, but to kind of give their final answers or final appeals, to go through all the information that was submitted over the entire case. They've now been given 3 months for that. Longer, actually. Maybe it's closer to 4 to 5 months. And so it looks like they're going to put in their final appeals, or their not an official legal appeal, but appeal to the judge about which way the case should go a few days before Christmas. That means unless we get an agreed upon settlement early, it looks like this is going to be over probably in the beginning of January. And I would honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I would say probably more like February, because if you look at what happened in January of this year, basically all the important dates and everything was pushed to February from January because the government don't want to do work in January. Duh, they just had Christmas. They're chilling. They look for any excuse they can. So we could potentially be looking at February 2023 for the end of this case. And look, I'm just giving the facts. I don't want this. I wanted this to be over a while ago. But let's talk about how this kind of fits into your XRP accumulation strategy. Well, that's great, okay? Now, when we think about Bitcoin bear markets, because I firmly believe that we are in a Bitcoin bear market at this point, and I believe we're going to go lower. I believe Bitcoin is going to probably retest the 30,000 region. I don't know if it's going to go below that. It could potentially 24 to 27K, but I'm looking for it's somewhere between 29, but somewhere between 28 and 33 testing again at the bottom. That's what I'm looking for. So that means we could see XRP have one more kind of long tail plunge along with all the other altcoins as it gets ready to move up as we get closer to the halving and the end of the bear market and things like that. So Bitcoin Bitcoin hits the top November 2021. Approximately 1 year later from what we've seen through history is when Bitcoin should hit the bottom, okay? Now, we had a double top in the Bitcoin cycle, so we could have a double bottom this time instead of a lower bottom, which would put the number back around 28,500, 29, 30,000, maybe as high as 33. I would still probably consider that a double bottom. So if that happens in November and we start getting traction for Bitcoin going back up in the right direction, it doesn't matter how high Bitcoin goes. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes back up into the 40s, if it goes to the mid 30s, if it goes to 45. None of that matters. What matters is that it will have hit a bottom and people will be having more confidence in the direction, and we won't have more massive Bitcoin drops to the downside to kind of squelch any XRP movement. So what we're looking to do between now and the end of the year as we prepare for the end of this case looking like early next year is accumulate. The more time that we have before XRP gets relisted on Coinbase and on other major exchanges, the more time we have to accumulate. And accumulation is never a bad thing. I've seen some conflicting numbers. Some people say if you have over 7,000 XRP, that you are actually an XRP whale, that you're in the 99 or the top 1% for people who own XRP. I don't know exactly what that number is. Maybe somebody could drop that down below in the comments, somebody from the XRP army. Of course, make sure, what are y'all doing? Make sure to throw the X up if you're in the XRP community. Make sure to smash that like button when we do these Ripple videos for you guys. But the point being here, I believe that we're going to see the Ripple price, the XRP price, absolutely explode after this case is over. If it comes after a Bitcoin bottom, yes, we're going to miss gains in the short term, but over the long term, you're going to be in a far better situation. I want to know what your Ripple prediction is for the next bull cycle. Drop that down below. And remember, guys, these bear markets, they're brutal, but we always come out on the other side with more crypto, prepared for better gains. And who knows, maybe one day you can have children too. All right, guys, that's all I got. We're going to go play some baseball. Be blessed. Big boy out.